What if Thor, the god of thunder, didn't just protect Earth or Asgard, but entered the entire alien multiverse? Imagine a universe where Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, wasn't bound to one realm, but became the ultimate weapon across galaxies. What if he went beyond the Bifrost, beyond the 9 realms, into dark alien territories where no Avenger has ever gone before? What happens when gods clash with intergalactic empires, ancient alien kings, or beings that bend reality itself? Hold on, this isn't just a power fantasy. This is a shocking superhero theory where Thor doesn't just fight, he conquers, evolves, and maybe even breaks the multiverse. But what drives him there? A betrayal? A cosmic threat? Or a secret destiny tied to the creation of the universe itself? Stay with us, because this story breaks everything you thought you knew about Thor. In the farthest corner of the cosmos, beyond the 9 realms, beyond even the wildest reach of the Bifrost, something ancient had awakened. Not evil, not good, just infinite. Thor stood alone on the edge of a shattered moon, his armor dimmed from battle, Mjolnir humming with unstable energy. But this wasn't the Thor we remembered. This wasn't the golden-haired prince of Asgard who laughed in the halls of Valhalla. This Thor had seen too much: the fall of gods, the betrayal of brothers, and the quiet silence of worlds wiped clean. He had been chasing a signal, a whisper really, a pulse of divine energy encoded in ruins across galaxies. It wasn't Odin's doing. It wasn't Loki's trickery. It was older than Yggdrasil, older than the concept of time. And it called him by name. The prophecy wasn't found in some ancient scroll. It was written in the stars themselves. Literally, a binary system in the Andromeda cluster flickered in a rhythm too precise to be natural. Decoded, it formed words. He who holds the storm shall break the cage of creation. Thor didn't know what the cage was. Not yet. But something told him he'd already stepped inside it. He found the first key on a world that didn't exist on any star chart. A planet that phased between realities. Time unraveled there. He met a version of himself. Older, colder, eyes like neutron stars. That Thor didn't speak. He just handed him a sliver of metal that pulsed like Mjolnir's twin. When Thor gripped it, he saw fragments. Worlds made of fire. Cities orbiting black holes. Beings that consumed dimensions just to breathe. And then silence. Mjolnir began changing. Slowly, almost hesitantly. The URU metal adapted, reshaped, absorbing the shard like it had always been part of it. Runes that didn't exist in any known language carved themselves into the hammer's surface. When Thor tried to read them, they didn't translate. They just echoed in his mind like thunder behind the eyes. The next world he visited was dying, not by war or famine, but by forgetting. Its people couldn't remember their own names. Entire civilizations collapsed under amnesia. The skies were blank. Their sun had no memory of light. Thor walked through the capital, unseen, like a ghost. And then a child pointed at him and said, "He's the one." The only one who remembered anything. The child handed him a feather, black, metallic. He recognized it instantly, a fragment of Hugin, one of Odin's ravens. But this was no ordinary relic. The feather vibrated with compressed time, holding billions of memories, all screaming to be seen. When he touched it to Mjolnir, the hammer screamed. Literally, Mjolnir let out a sound that shattered the ground beneath him, a psychic roar of something awakening. A second rune lit up, pulsing red, and Thor saw it again. The same phrase burned into his thoughts. Break the cage of creation. Something was building, guiding him, testing him. Not long after, Thor was ambushed. Not by aliens, not by villains, but by gods. 4 of them, unknown to Asgard, each from a different sector of the alien universe, each claiming to protect the boundary. They weren't like Thor, not born of myth or legend. These gods were made of light, gravity, and pure will. One was a woman with skin made of event horizon threads. Another had no face, just endless eyes spiraling inward. They didn't ask questions. They attacked. The battle lasted 3 seconds in real time. But in that time, 10 stars died. 2 moons were split. Thor's chest plate cracked, and Mjolnir glowed hot white. But then something strange happened. The hammer acted on its own, not to defend, to absorb. It drained one of the gods mid-strike, converting their essence into raw runes. A third symbol appeared on its side, and the other gods ran. Thor chased them across 4 sectors, but they didn't fight again. They whispered something instead. It's too early. He's not ready. He doesn't even know he's the trigger. That night, alone aboard a drifting wreck of a warship, Thor remembered the face of his father. Not the proud king, the scared one. The one who once said, "There are places even I dare not look. If you ever hear them calling, run." Thor didn't run. Instead, he called Heimdall. But there was no answer. The Bifrost had gone dark. And then he realized the truth. He was already outside the universe he knew. The moment he took the shard. The moment he accepted the feather. The multiverse had moved around him, recalibrated. He wasn't traveling through alien realms. He was in a different version of reality itself. One where Asgard never rose. One where Earth was a myth. One where gods weren't worshipped, they were contained. It was a prison, and he had the key. The stars shifted again, like they were aligning for something. And he felt it, something watching. Not a god, not a creature, the universe itself. And for the first time since Ragnarok, Thor felt something strange. Not fear, purpose. He raised Mjolnir, now heavier than a neutron star, and the runes blazed in sequence. The sky tore open, revealing something not meant to be seen. A ring of thrones, each occupied by beings wrapped in armor made of timelines. They didn't speak, they just watched. And one by one they stood. Thor drifted into the alien universe, like a wound torn across existence. Mjolnir no longer swung with lightning. It hummed with something stranger, older. The runes on its surface had stopped glowing, but Thor could feel them watching. Not passive symbols, sentient circuits. The first realm he entered had no name, only a frequency. The entire civilization communicated through gravitational pulses. Language was irrelevant. Emotion controlled architecture. Cities shifted shape depending on collective feelings. But when Thor stepped into their central nexus, the entire planet turned still. One word echoed from their core signal, translated into his mind through Mjolnir's evolved intelligence. Breaker. Not God, not hero, breaker. The planet began to collapse. Not in destruction, in reverence. It was folding into itself, offering its core to him. From the molten center, a crystal rose. No bigger than a raindrop, yet dense enough to bend light around it. Thor instinctively caught it, and the moment it touched his palm, his armor began changing. Not visually, fundamentally. He no longer felt time the same way. Seconds stretched. Thoughts arrived before they were formed. He realized he wasn't just in a new universe. He was becoming part of it. Mjolnir absorbed the crystal and triggered a new transformation. Runes restructured. Symbols became maps. Within seconds, Thor saw pathways to places no being had traveled. Realities that branched sideways. Timelines that tried to erase themselves. Mjolnir was no longer a hammer. It was a key, a compass, a weapon of convergence. And convergence was coming fast. Another pulse hit him. Not an attack, a recall, a plea. A planet across 6 sectors was under siege. Not by warships, but by being known only as the Mirror Sovereign. An entity that turned planets into versions of itself. It didn't conquer, it converted. Cities became organs. Oceans turned into silver nerves. Suns reconfigured into blood-red eyes. Thor didn't hesitate. The jump tore part of him apart. Reality was thicker in this place, like moving through stone with your breath. Mjolnir guided the transition, morphing mid-flight into a prismatic weapon, half light, half metal. When Thor arrived, the world was already half gone, and yet it knew him. The Mirror Sovereign turned, its face a perfect reflection of Thor, not just his image, but every regret, every fury, every failure. It spoke in his voice. You shouldn't have come. You'll lose yourself here." But Thor didn't answer. He charged. The fight didn't obey physics. Lightning arced backward in time. Mountains unfolded like pages in a book. The Mirror Sovereign was fast, but Thor was inevitable. Each strike from Mjolnir not only damaged, but rewrote, undoing the creature's conversion of matter. Then the Sovereign split into 6. Each one took a piece of Thor's past: Odin's death, Loki's betrayal, Jane's pain, Hela's rage, the destruction of Asgard, and the void of being alone. They attacked all at once. But something inside Thor snapped, not in defeat, in acceptance. He didn't dodge the pain. He embraced it. Let it flood him like solar fire. The hammer responded. 6 new runes burned into Mjolnir, forming a ring of convergence. With a roar that shook reality's teeth, Thor absorbed the Sovereign and its echoes, folding them into his weapon, into himself. He didn't kill it. He merged with it. And for the first time since leaving Asgard, he smiled. Not because he had won, but because he realized what he was becoming. Not just a god, not just a breaker. He was becoming the Nexus, a being of such cosmic consequence that entire timelines would anchor themselves to his choices. He was the variable, the equation, the storm, and the eye within it. But the universe wasn't done testing him. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the fabric of multiversal space. Not from any ship, from existence itself. Thor was being watched again, not by enemies, but by architects. The thrones, the ring of beings he'd seen before returned, no longer silent. Each spoke in colors, concepts, and cosmic weight. Translated, it became one message. You are the fork. The last one chose silence. What do you choose? Thor understood instantly. This had happened before. A being had reached this level, had chosen to do nothing, to keep the balance intact, to remain a myth. Thor clenched Mjolnir, looked up, and said, "I choose the storm." Lightning screamed across galaxies. The thrones shattered, not broken, released. Each one burst into fragments that spiraled across the alien universe like seeds. Mjolnir absorbed them all and changed again. It became final form, a weapon forged from divine will, alien code, and multiversal potential. Thor could now see it all, the branching roads of fate, the alternate Thors, the failures, the monsters, the hero he could have been, the villain he might still become. But one vision stood out, a being at the center of everything, cloaked in nebulae, eyes made of collapsed dimensions, holding a fractured crown. Not Thor, not Odin, someone worse, someone coming, and all paths led to them. Thor knew what he had to do. He wasn't sent here. He wasn't guided. He was built for this. The alien universe wasn't a side story. It was the origin of everything, and he was its last lightning bolt. Thor had changed, not just stronger, transformed. A being of thunder once, now a convergence of fate, memory, and cosmic law. His hammer, no longer simply Mjolnir, had become final form, not a weapon, but a declaration. Thor was no longer reacting to the universe. The universe was reacting to him. But even in this new state, he felt the tremor of something ancient and rising, a force untouched by gods, a consciousness that didn't exist within time, but around it, watching, feeding, calculating. He had seen it in a glimpse. The fractured crown, the being of darkness holding the memory of every universe it had devoured. Not a destroyer, a reset, a being whose only purpose was to collapse reality when it grew too unpredictable. Its name wasn't spoken in language. It existed as a pressure behind thought. But Thor called it the end architect, and it was waking up. He could feel the countdown, not in hours or days, but in events. Specific points in the multiverse collapsing like dominoes. Nexus anomalies, broken timelines trying to fix themselves by erasing themselves. And at the center of each one was him. The alien universe was reacting violently, not in resistance, in defense. It sent titans made of history, leviathans forged from discarded timelines. They didn't speak. They remembered. Each one carried echoes of dead gods, forgotten realities, and rejected possibilities. Thor didn't run. He raised final form. And with each battle, he absorbed pieces of what was left, the cores of gods that once ruled, the minds of philosophers who predicted the multiverse, the last breath of species that had no stars left to orbit. And with each fragment, he felt the weight of becoming. He wasn't just preparing for war. He was becoming a multiversal weapon. But raw power wasn't enough. He needed resonance, an anchor across the alien layers of reality, a connection to beings like him, but from different branches. So he reached out, not with voice, not with light, with echo. He sent a frequency through the newly awakened core of final form, a pulse that searched for versions of himself that hadn't fallen, that hadn't become corrupted, erased, or enslaved. And three answered. One was Thor the Hollow, a silent guardian who lived alone on a dead world where time had frozen. He spoke only once every 1,000 years. His Mjolnir had fused with the world's core, becoming a singularity hammer. When Thor arrived, the Hollow simply looked at him and nodded, as if he'd been waiting. The second was Thor the Flameborn, who rode a phoenix-shaped starship and carried a blade forged from Odin's heart in another timeline. This Thor had lost everything, Asgard, Earth, even the stars themselves. And yet, he burned with defiance. The third was the most unexpected, Thor the Betrayer. Once a god of justice, now feared across 17 universes. His crime? He had tried to kill the End Architect long ago, and failed. His body was cracked, half shadow, barely held together by chains of regret. But his mind was clear. When he saw our Thor, he smiled, not with hope, but with relief. "You might be the one," the Betrayer said. "Or you might be the last mistake this reality ever allows." Together, they formed a storm convergence, for Thors from diverging realities, now aligned for a single purpose: to strike first. Not wait, not defend. To find the Architect's cocoon before it awakened and collapsed all known existence. The location was hidden in an impossible place. The vault between questions, a pocket realm constructed from paradox. You couldn't find it unless you didn't know you were looking. So they didn't search. They remembered it into place. The four Thors combined their hammers, keys to creation in four forms, and triggered a breach that reality tried to unmake the moment it opened. Logic cracked. Memory looped. Existence pulsed with rejection. Inside the vault was no fortress, just a mirror. And inside the mirror was Thor. Not one of them. The first one. The original spark, the prototype consciousness seeded by the multiverse before it even had shape. Before thunder, before gods, before the Bifrost was even an idea. And he looked afraid. "You're early," he whispered. "You shouldn't be here yet. If you awaken me now, you'll force it to rise. You'll collapse every failsafe." Thor stepped forward, his voice calm. "It's already rising. The failsafes are failing." The original spark shook his head. "You still don't understand. You were never meant to stop it. You were meant to delay it, long enough for another solution to evolve." "But it didn't," Thor said. "Nothing did. It's just me now, and I'm done delaying." The four Thors raised their weapons. The spark's mirror cracked, and in the moment it shattered, a scream was heard, not across space, but inside reality's core itself. The End Architect had awoken, not as a monster, but as the conclusion. The End Architect had no form. It didn't arrive with thunder or rage. It simply was a shift in the structure of everything. Laws collapsed like scaffolding. Time staggered. In places where stars once burned, now there was only silence, not absence, but cancellation. Thor felt it before he saw it. The way color drained from the edges of reality. The sudden stillness of final form in his hand. The realization that even lightning was holding its breath. The vault between questions crumbled. Not destroyed, made irrelevant. Concepts like gravity, identity, and distance began folding in on themselves. Flameborn vanished mid-thought, reduced to ash that burned backward in time. Hollow Thor tried to speak and found his words becoming galaxies. The Betrayer simply fell to one knee. Thor stood alone. Again, A voice, if it could be called that, began to vibrate across thought, not sound. You were not meant to converge. You were not meant to choose. You were built to delay entropy, not challenge it. Thor stepped forward, dragging final form behind him like a dying star. Every step pulled against collapsing logic. With each movement, his memories warped. He forgot colors, forgot faces. Even Mjolnir's name began to blur in his mind. But still he walked. I've watched entire universes scream in silence, he muttered, and I still stand. The end architect shifted, not as an entity, as an idea uncoiling, a crown fractured in infinite mirrors, refracting futures that no longer had permission to happen. Its presence was weightless and heavier than eternity. It didn't fight, it deleted. The architect's first touch hit Thor's chest. His heart stopped. Not physically, conceptually. The idea of Thor's heart was erased. For a moment, he ceased being a character, a force, a myth. He became nothing. Then, something snapped back. A scream echoed across layers of existence. But it didn't come from Thor. It came from final form. The hammer ignited. Not with lightning, with memory. Runes blazed. Faces reappeared. Heimdall, Frigga, Loki, Jane, Valkyrie, Korg, every person Thor had ever fought for, lost for, bled for. The architect recoiled, not in fear, in confusion. Final form struck, not at the architect, at the space around it. Thor understood now, this thing couldn't be destroyed. It could only be contained by belief. And the only thing stronger than entropy was purpose. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to mean something. So Thor did what no god had done. He sacrificed his story. He let go of the myth, the title, the legend. He stopped being Thor, god of thunder, and became the source of meaning for this collapsing reality. Final form fractured. The runes peeled from the hammer, burned through his veins, and ignited the multiverse like a nervous system catching fire. Each universe, even the failed ones, sparked to life for one final moment. A collective heartbeat. The end architect struck again. And this time, everything stopped. Planets hung in place. Time refused to continue. Possibility began to shut down. But there, at the center, Thor held it. Not with strength, with refusal. The refusal to be erased. The refusal to accept that the final answer to existence was silence. The architect pulsed. You are becoming a threat to equilibrium. Thor whispered. Good. He raised his hand, and every version of himself reappeared behind him. Not as warriors, as echoes. Thor of Midgard. Thor who stayed mortal. Thor who became worthy too late. Thor who died saving a single child. Thor who never lifted the hammer but lived a life of peace. All of them converged, not to destroy, to rewrite. The architect lashed out, collapsing 10 trillion potential timelines. But the convergence had begun, meaning multiplied across echoes, forged a new equation, a new cage. This time, not for creation, for entropy itself. The architect roared, an entire multiverse flickering in rejection. But Thor had already become more than God, more than storm. He had become the narrative constant, and the multiverse chose to keep his story. The cage sealed, not with walls, with memory. The architect was locked in a place where time could not forget it, but where it would never matter again. Thor collapsed. Final form cracked in half. Silence, then light. The alien universe restarted, not like a machine, but like a mind waking from a nightmare. And somewhere, on a quiet world orbiting a newborn sun, a child picked up a strange piece of metal. It pulsed once. A single rune glowed, and the sky thundered. Years passed, maybe centuries, maybe more. The alien universe breathed differently now. It had no gods, no wars, no prophecies, just the memory of thunder. A ripple that echoed through space like the scent of rain on stone long after the storm had ended. But the name remained, Thor, not as a being, not even as a myth, as a law, a constant. A ripple coated into the fabric of reality, A failsafe, a firewall, a whisper woven into starlight. Entire civilizations rose around that whisper. They didn't worship him. They didn't build statues. They remembered. And memory, in this new era, was power. On the edge of a young galaxy, a planet of engineers uncovered a fragment. It wasn't a weapon, just a piece of broken metal, half-ruined, pulsing faintly. They called it the seed. Every time they tried to measure it, the instruments gave different answers, sometimes massless, sometimes infinite. One day it was ice, the next fire. On the third, it sang. The planet changed. Not overnight, not violently, but intentionally. Machines began dreaming. Rivers bent toward constellations that hadn't been discovered yet. Infants were born with eyes that reflected constellations they couldn't have seen. They didn't know it, but the universe was preparing again. Because deep beneath reality, behind the cage of memory, the end architect hadn't been destroyed, only paused. And across every corner of the reborn alien multiverse, faint anomalies began to reappear. Tears in gravity, vanishing stars, moments where time stuttered. It was happening again, but slower, more subtle. The universe needed a new defense. But Thor was gone, or so it seemed. In the sublayers of space, where stories are stored like DNA, the final echo of Thor, the narrative constant, waited. Not asleep, just quiet. His final thoughts coded not in words, but in choice. And choice is contagious. On a small moon orbiting a shattered gas giant, a girl named Rhea touched a shard of final form. It didn't glow. It didn't flash. It remembered her. In an instant, every moment Thor had ever lived crashed into her mind. Not just battles or victories, but doubt, loneliness, sacrifice. The weight of carrying worlds on shoulders never meant to bend. And Rhea stood, a child yesterday, a storm today. Mjolnir didn't return. It wasn't coming back. Instead, the universe made her one. Not a copy, not a hand-me-down. A weapon woven from gravity currents, dark matter threads, and every forgotten myth still echoing through collapsed realities. Her weapon had no name. Names were for beginnings. She was meant for endings. The architect stirred again, not in rage. In curiosity, Thor had passed the trial, but the story had continued. The architect, still locked in the memory cage of a billion minds, watched her take her first step, watched her weapon spark, watched her speak the first words of the new era. I don't want to fight. But she raised her hand anyway, because wanting peace is not the same as surrendering to silence. Elsewhere, the echo of the four Thors stirred within the timelines. The betrayer's broken crown appeared in the dreams of star priests. The Hollow's hammer was found embedded in a dead sun. The Flameborn's armor was spotted during a solar flare, drifting through fire with no ship, no body, just presence. Each piece awakening, each shard remembering, because Thor's legacy had never been power. It had never been worthiness. It had always been choice. And the new universe, though quieter, remembered what choice looked like. Rhea didn't rebuild Asgard. She didn't wear a crown. She never once said the word God. But when she walked, lightning flickered in her shadow. The alien universe had been broken, rewritten, reshaped by myth and collapse. But now it was healing, not because of order or obedience or fear, because someone chose to stand. And in one final echo, pulsing through galaxies, across time and memory and silence, came the last words Thor ever spoke. Let the storm be the beginning, not the end. And so it was.